So now we're dangerously close to finishing the course and finishing our website. All we want to do is display the content for a particular page. So this is where our page.php file comes in and our page class. So first of all, let's move this down and we'll get rid of the site display method for now. So we want to create a new page. Now, depending on your site, the page could contain various different bits of information. I'm going to have two things to keep it fairly simple as always, and it's going to have some page content and a page title. Now, this does complicate things very slightly because the page title is going to need to go in the spot inside the header.php file. So let's just bring that back again. Let's have a look. So where does it need to go? It needs to go here, between title and close title. So there, that's where it's going to be. So I'm going to leave it empty for now. So close header.php. And let's now create a title, which is just going to be whatever you want it to be. I'm going to call it My Awesome OOP Site. Great. And we need a bit of content. I'm going to take that from, once again, example.com to keep it simple, and we'll just then have it from the opening div to the closing div, and we'll use the EOT, which stands for end of text, or possibly end of transmission, depending on who you believe. That's a really good way to include strings that are likely to have single quote marks and double quote marks in there, so you don't need to worry about escaping characters or anything like that. Okay, so that's our content. And now we just need a function to display it. So we're going to switch back over to page.php, and I'll give you a moment to pause the video and create a method to display the content variable. All right, I hope you did something like public function display to create our display method. And we'll need a content variable to be passed, and then it's just simply echo content. That should do it, and then we need to run the function, so let's give it a test. We've got a new page already there, so we just want to get that page object and then display content. Okay, let's have a look. Great, excellent. So it's displaying our content. We're very nearly there. We now just need to get to the site.php, and what we need to do is have the page display method running here in the site display method. Then we can have the header, then the content, and then the footer, which is what we want. So I'll pause briefly, see if you can figure out how to do that. Okay, again, there's a number of ways to do it. The way I'm going to do it is as follows. So our page class just displays the content there. We can do exactly the same thing with the site. So if we were to pass the content to the site display method, then we can use the page display method there. One thing we're going to have to do is bring the page object into this method, and we use that using the global command. It just means that the scope of the page is added to this particular method. And just before they test it out, it's worth saying that we could, of course, do this a number of other ways. We could just bring the echo function here, but I quite like having it in the page class, because then for different sorts of pages we can do it slightly differently, and it's all controlled within the page class rather than the site class, which to me makes a little more sense. Okay, let's just save everything. And now we want to run the site display content method. Let's take a look. Looking good. Let's just take a look at the source. There we go. We've got our header text, then we've got our content, and then we've got our footer. Fantastic. We're very nearly there. The one thing that we're missing so far is the title. We haven't actually used that yet. So there's a number of different ways of doing this. Again, I'll pause for a few minutes to see if you can figure out how to add the title between the two title tags there. Did you manage it? Let's see. What I would do is, of course, we're going to need to pass the title to the display method. And then we'll save, go back over to site. There, fantastic. And now we just need to bring back our Fire FTP for a moment, because we want to edit the header.php file. And then all we need to do is have a quick bit of PHP which displays the title. Fantastic, we'll save that, and then check it out. There it is, we can see it there in the bar. Have a quick look at the source, and fantastic. So let's just switch back, have a quick look at Fire FTP again, and remind ourselves what our site looks like. We've got our index.php file, our header and our footer, and then all of our classes neatly put together in a single folder. The only thing I don't like about the current setup is we've got all this in our index.php file, which is going to be the same for every page. So I'm going to cut that, and we'll have an include, and we could call this anything we like really. I'll go for config.php, save that, and then back in Fire FTP we're going to create a file, config.php, and this will just essentially set up each page for us. So we've got our auto load function, we create a new site, add the header and the footer, and then we create a new page object. So now each page of the site is just going to include the config.php page, and then the title and the content of the page, and then run a method to display that. So super simple, and then each time you want to add a new page, you just add a new file with this content in. Super easy to update, super easy to maintain. So I hope you've enjoyed this little course about PHP object-oriented programming. If you're interested in learning more about web development, check out my complete web developer course. But for now, go and build yourself an OOP site, and all the best with your programming.